Namaste everyone. Welcome to Physio Vitals. I'm Dr. Ankita Sawant and today's video is about radius. So radius is a lateral bone of the forearm and is homologous with the tibia of the lower limb. It has an upper end, lower end and a shaft. Moving further to the site determination. Site determination. Upper end is having disc shaped head while lower end is expanded with the styloid process. So here upper end has a disc shape head while the lower end is expanded and having a styloid process. Alright. At the lower end, the anterior surface is in the form of thick prominent ridge, while the posterior surface presents four grooves for the extensor tendons. The sharpest border of the shaft is the medial border. Close to neck, it presents a radial tuberosity. Lower end presents a tubercle on the posterior surface called as dorsal tubercle of Lister. See, this is the head, disc shaped head. Medial border is the sharpest. Here we have styloid process. Alright. So moving further now to the features. In features, upper end we have head, neck and tuberosity, radial tuberosity. So head is a disc shape and is covered with hyaline cartilage. It has a superior concave surface. It has a concave surface which articulates with the capitulum. See, in the humerus video you can see I have already explained everything about capitulum and trochlea. So if you haven't seen the video, kindly go through it. I'll paste the video in the description. So which articulates with the capitulum. Alright, the head articulates with the capitulum of the humerus at the elbow joint. The circumference of the head is also articular. It fits into the socket formed by the radial notch of the ulna. Now ulna has the radial notch and ulna has a radial notch and the annular ligament, and thus it forms a superior radio-ulnar joint. Alright. Now for moving further to the neck. Neck is enclosed by narrow lower margin of the annular ligament. The head and neck are free from capsular attachment and can rotate freely within the socket. Tuberosity lies just below the medial part of the neck. See, this is the radial tuberosity and this is the medial part of the neck. It has a rough posterior part and a smooth anterior part. Moving further now to the shaft. Shaft has three borders and three surfaces. So first border is anterior border. It extends from the anterior margin, radial tuberosity to this. This is the anterior border. Alright. So anterior margin of the radial tuberosity to styloid process. It is oblique on the upper part. See here, in upper part it's oblique. Then lower part it's vertical. Alright. The oblique part is called anterior oblique line. The lower part is crest like. Moving further to the posterior border now. Posterior border in this video, in this picture you can see this is the posterior border. Over here, posterior border is a mirror image of the anterior border but is clearly defined only in its middle 1/3. The upper oblique part is known as the posterior oblique line. Upper oblique part is known as posterior oblique line. Moving further to the medial or interosseous border. It is the medial border is the sharpest of all the three borders. It extends from the radial tuberosity above the posterior margin of the ulnar notch below. The interosseous membrane is attached to its lower 3/4. In its lower part, it forms the posterior margin of the elongated triangular area. Alright. Moving further now to the three surfaces. We saw the three borders, now three surfaces. The first surface is anterior surface. It lies between the anterior and interosseous border. This is the anterior border and interosseous, which is medial. So this area is the anterior surface. A nutrient foramen. This is the nutrient foramen. Opens in the upper part and is directed upwards. The nutrient artery is a branch of anterior interosseous artery. Moving further to the posterior surface. Posterior surface lies between the posterior and the interosseous border. As you can see in this picture, this is the posterior surface. The third surface is lateral surface, lies between the anterior and posterior border. It shows a rough area in its middle part. So, lateral surface lies between the anterior and the posterior border. Alright. Moving further to the lower end. It has 5 surfaces. First is anterior surface. Is in the form of a thick prominent ridge. The radial artery is palpated against this surface. So see, this is radial artery. It is palpated against this surface. So anterior surface. Now posterior surface presents 4 grooves for the extensor tendon. The dorsal tubercle of wristus lies lateral to an oblique groove. This medial surface is occupied by ulnar notch for the head of the ulna. The lateral surface is prolonged downwards to form the styloid process. Lateral process has styloid process. Medial surface is occupied by ulnar notch for the head of the ulna. Now the last surface, fifth surface is inferior surface. There is a triangular area for the styloid bone and a medial quadrangular area for the lunate bone. This surface takes part in forming the wrist joint. Moving further to the attachments. So first is biceps. Biceps is a Latin word which means 2 heads, is inserted into the rough posterior part of the radial tuberosity. As you can see here, it is inserted onto the radial tuberosity. The anterior part of the tuberosity is covered by a bursae. Next is supinator. So supinator is again a Latin word which means to bend back. Is inserted into the upper part of the lateral surface. Supinator is here. So it is inserted into the upper part of the lateral surface. This is upper part and this is lateral surface. Now pronator teres. It is inserted into the middle of the lateral surface. As you can see here, middle of the lateral surface. Next muscle is brachioradialis. Brachioradialis is inserted onto the lowest part of the lateral surface just above the styloid process. So here you can see this is the styloid process. So lower part of the radius just above the styloid process. Next is flexor digitorum superficialis. As you can see here. So it takes origin from the anterior oblique line and the upper part of the anterior border. Moving further to the flexor pollicis longus, which takes origin from the upper 2/3 of the anterior surface. As you can see here, this is flexor pollicis longus. Moving further to pronator quadratus. Pronator quadratus is inserted into the lower part of the anterior surface and into the triangular area on the medial side of the lower end. So this over here is pronator quadratus. Moving further to abductor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis longus. Alright. Pardon me, extensor pollicis brevis, not longus. So, arises these two muscles, abductor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis brevis, arises from the posterior surface. So, this is abductor pollicis longus and here it is extensor pollicis brevis. So, it arises from the posterior surface of the radius. Moving further to articular capsule of wrist joint. So it is attached to the anterior and posterior margin of the inferior articular surface. Anterior and posterior margin of the inferior articular surface. So as you can see over here, this is capsular ligament of wrist joint. Moving further to the articular disc of the inferior radio-ulnar joint is attached to the lower border of the ulnar notch. So this area is having the disc, articular disc. Moving further to interosseous membrane. It is attached to the lower 3/4 of the interosseous border. Now we'll see the tendons of the posterior surface of lower end of the radius and ulnar. So the first groove between the crest like lowest part of the anterior border and the styloid process gives passage to abductor pollicis longus tendon and extensor pollicis brevis tendon. You can see over here. Then the second groove, this was the first groove. Now the second groove between styloid process and dorsal tubercle gives way to extensor carpi radialis longus and extensor carpi radialis brevis. This two. So first groove is this is the second groove. Now the third oblique groove medial to dorsal tubercle gives passage to extensor pollicis longus tendon. Extensor pollicis longus tendon. The fourth groove on the medial aspect gives passage to tendon of extensor digitorum, extensor indicis, posterior interosseous nerve and anterior interosseous artery. So all this extensor digitorum, extensor indicis tendon, posterior interosseous nerve and anterior interosseous artery. Moving further, in addition, at the junction of lower end of the radius and ulna passes the tendon of extensor digiti minimi. Lastly, in relation to ulna, between its head and styloid process traverses the tendon of extensor carpi ulnaris. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 total tendons of the posterior surface of the lower end of the radius and ulnar. Moving further to the ossifications. The shaft ossifies from a primary center which appears during the 8th week of development. 8th week. Alright. Shaft ossifies from primary center. Now the lower end. Lower end ossifies from the secondary center which appears during the first year and fuses at 20 years. It is the growing end of the bone. Moving further to the upper end. In upper end, head ossifies from a secondary center which appears during the 4th year and fuses at 18th year. Moving on further to clinical anatomy. The radius commonly gets fractured about 2 cm above its lower end, which is called Colles fracture. Just 2 cm above its lower end, if anyone sustains a fracture, that will be Colles fracture. This fracture is caused by a fall on an outstretched hand. The distal fragment is displayed upward. The distal fragment, which is the the proximal part is towards the body and distal is away the body. So the distal fragment is displays upward and backwards, and the radial styloid process comes to lie proximal to the ulnar styloid process. The distal fragment gets displaced anteriorly. It is called Smith's fracture. Now, Smith's fracture. When the distal fragment gets displaced anteriorly, in Colles fracture what happens? It displaces upwards and backwards, right? That is Colles fracture. But in Smith's fracture, that particular fragment displaces anteriorly. Now, what is pulled elbow? A sudden powerful jerk on the hand of a child may dislodge the head of the radius from the grip of the annular ligament. This is known as subluxation of the head of the radius or pulled elbow. The head can normally be felt in a hollow behind the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. Hope the video was informative. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Next topic will be ulnar bone. Thank you.